Mom says we need an heir. Give me back my daughter. My ex-husband's voice boomed through the store, drawing the attention of everyone around us. Customers turned to stare, their curiosity piqued. A grown man shouting "Mom says," it was almost laughable if the situation itself wasn't so absurd. But no matter what nonsense he spewed, I had no intention of letting him anywhere near my daughter. I had vowed long ago never to see this man again. I am a single mother, raising my 18-year-old daughter on my own. She is the most precious thing in my life, the only good thing to come from my marriage to that man. When she was born, we had felt genuine happiness. But that joy did not last. My mother-in-law made my life miserable, constantly belittling me, and my husband never once stood up for me. On top of that, he took zero responsibility for raising our daughter, dumping everything on me while he carried on an affair. I had endured enough. By the time our daughter was 5 years old, I filed for divorce. The period that followed was incredibly tough. Although I demanded compensation from both my ex-husband and the woman he cheated with, neither of them paid a single cent. Money was always tight, and I had to work endlessly to keep us afloat. Despite everything, my daughter never complained. She must have sensed my struggles because, even as a child, she never acted spoiled. She grew up to be kind, considerate, and mature beyond her years. And now, my wonderful daughter had been accepted into a prestigious university. Looking back at the past 13 years since the divorce, I realized just how much we had been through together. The struggles, the sacrifices, the hardships, it had all led to this. And despite the rough start, my heart was full of nothing but love and gratitude. We had built a happy life, just the two of us. Then, out of nowhere, my phone rang. I glanced at the screen and froze. It was him. I had kept his number in case of emergencies, though for over a decade, he had been completely unreachable. He had ignored every attempt to contact him about child support and compensation. So why now? A part of me wanted to ignore the call. But curiosity won, and I answered. His voice was light, casual, like nothing had ever happened. My stomach twisted in irritation. "What do you want?" I asked, cutting straight to the point. "Well, you see, I'd like to meet our daughter," he said smoothly. For a moment, my mind went blank. Then anger surged through me. "You have got to be kidding me," I snapped. "You have not paid a single cent in child support for 13 years, and now you suddenly want to meet her?" "Yeah, sorry about that," he said, though his voice lacked any sincerity. "But there is something really important I need to talk to her about." I clenched my jaw. He was apologizing, but it was clear he did not actually feel sorry. "You do not get to see her," I stated firmly. "Please, just one meeting," he begged. "I am her father. I have a right to see her." I let out a bitter laugh. "A father? Since when? You abandoned her 13 years ago." Still, he kept pushing. After a long pause, I exhaled sharply. "Fine. But first, I will meet with you alone. Then I will decide if you deserve to see her." He eagerly agreed. A few days later, we met in person. The moment I saw him, my patience ran out. I skipped the pleasantries and got straight to the point. "What is your real reason for wanting to meet her?" I asked coldly. "You ignored us for 13 years. You never paid child support. And now, out of nowhere, you want to see her?" He shifted awkwardly. 2 years after our divorce, he had a son with the woman he cheated on me with. I knew this because my former mother-in-law had deliberately called me just to rub it in my face. "Unlike you, she is a real wife," she had sneered. "A proper woman who gave my son a son. Not like you, a useless woman who could only give birth to a girl." That woman had always made my life miserable. I crossed my arms and smirked. "I already know. Your mother made sure to call and tell me about the precious baby boy." My ex-husband let out a bitter sigh. "Yeah, but actually, that child was not mine." I raised an eyebrow. "Turns out, she was seeing someone else behind my back," he admitted. "The kid was another man's." I almost laughed out loud. Oh, I said, barely able to contain my amusement. That must have been disappointing. I had to bite my tongue to keep from saying serves you right. But I was not going to waste my energy rubbing salt in his wounds. Instead, I added lightly, well, at least your mother must be happy. It is a boy, after all. His face darkened. No. She is furious. I nearly rolled my eyes. Of course she was. Just thinking about my former mother-in-law sent a shiver down my spine. She had always loved tormenting me. Even after I gave birth to our daughter, she would make cruel comments without hesitation. It is a girl? That is a shame. What are we supposed to do about an heir? Are you sure that is my son's child? No matter how many times I told my husband about her behavior, he had always brushed it off. She does not mean any harm, he would say. It is just family teasing. Learn to laugh it off. Even when I caught him having an affair, he showed no remorse. Oh, you found out? He had said casually. Well, I have got someone I like. She is younger than you. Better than you. And besides, Mom keeps telling me to divorce you. She says a woman who can only give birth to girls is not worth keeping around. I had never forgotten those words. Sitting across from him now, I felt all those memories rushing back. If there had been even the slightest chance of letting him meet our daughter, it had disappeared in that instant. He still did not deserve to be a father. Yet, despite everything, he had the audacity to continue. So, he said, looking at me expectantly, you will let me see her now, right? So, since my mistress's child was not mine either, I need an heir. That is why I want to see our daughter. My ex-husband's words were as shameless as ever. Not a hint of regret, not a shred of self-awareness. Anger flared in my chest. Are you kidding me? I snapped. You did whatever you wanted, abandoned her for 13 years, and now you want to claim her as your heir? My voice rose without me meaning to. If you are so desperate for an heir, go find another woman and have a child with her, I added, crossing my arms. My ex-husband lowered his gaze. I got sick a few years ago, he muttered. I cannot have children anymore. That was the real reason. I exhaled sharply. I do not care. And for the record, our daughter probably does not want to see you anyway. So give up on this ridiculous heir nonsense. I stood up, ready to leave, but suddenly, his hand shot out and gripped my arm tightly. Mom says we need an heir. Give me back my daughter. His outburst was so loud that everyone in the cafe turned to stare. A grown man screaming Mom says, it was almost too absurd to believe. He seemed to realize the scene he was causing and quickly composed himself. Just ask her, he said firmly. If she says she wants to meet me, then you will let her, right? I said nothing and simply turned to leave. No matter what he said, I had no intention of letting him meet her. I had hoped that would be the last time I saw my ex-husband. But when I got home and casually told my daughter about the encounter, her response caught me completely off guard. Oh, I do not mind meeting Dad, she said. I nearly dropped the glass I was holding. What? I blurted out, searching her face for any sign that she was joking. But she smiled and shrugged. I am serious. If Dad is there, that means Grandma will be too, right? That makes me want to meet them even more. I tried to talk her out of it, but she would not budge. 1 week later, I found myself reluctantly taking my daughter to visit my former in-law's house, for the first time in 13 years. From the outside, it looked the same as I remembered. But as we stepped inside, I could see how run down it had become. The moment my former mother-in-law saw me, her lips curled in disgust. Why did you have to come? She spat. My granddaughter alone would have been fine. I swallowed my anger and kept my voice steady. I am here as my daughter's guardian. We stepped inside, and immediately, her expression changed. She turned to my daughter with an unnaturally sweet smile. It has been so long, she cooed. I heard you got accepted into a top university. My daughter, ever the polite one, nodded. Yes. I am going to study law. I plan to become a lawyer. My former mother-in-law's eyes gleamed. A lawyer? That is just what I would expect from someone with our bloodline, she said proudly. I always knew you were special. Say, why not come live with us? You can be our heir. That was it. I could not hold back anymore. Are you serious? I snapped. After all these years, you think she will just come back here? But before I could say more, my daughter calmly placed a hand on my arm. Mom, let me handle this. She turned to her grandmother, took a deep breath, and spoke in a clear, unwavering voice. I think there has been a misunderstanding. I did not come here today to be anyone's heir. My former mother-in-law's smile faltered. My ex-husband looked just as shocked. What do you mean? She asked stiffly. My daughter straightened her posture. Why would I ever return to people who caused my mother so much pain? She said. Her voice was calm, but firm. I am here today for one reason only. She continued. To demand payment for 13 years of unpaid child support. And compensation for the affair. The room went silent. My ex-husband's mouth fell open, his face paling as he no doubt started calculating the enormous amount in his head. My former mother-in-law's shock lasted only a second before she scoffed. What nonsense! We are not paying anything like that, she snapped. My daughter smiled unfazed. Are you sure about that? She asked, tilting her head slightly. If you refuse, I will take this matter to family court. If necessary, we will have your savings and wages garnished. It is up to you. I could barely contain my pride. She had taken complete control of the situation. My ex-husband and his mother sat frozen, unable to say a word. Then, my daughter delivered the final blow. Remember what I said? I am going to be a lawyer. That was it. Their fight was gone. My mother-in-law and ex-husband looked completely defeated, like balloons with all the air let out. Mom, we are done here. Let us go home, my daughter said, smiling as if nothing had happened. As I looked at her, I realized something. Even as her mother, I could not have handled it better myself. My shouting would not have made half the impact that her calm, confident words did. Just as she said, we hired a lawyer and filed for child support and compensation. Not long after, my former in-laws wired the full amount to us in one lump sum. Judging by how reluctant they were, they probably had to take out loans just to pay. But they had no other choice. I had no doubt that my daughter's threat of family court and wage garnishment had forced them to comply. That night, as we sat together, I turned to my daughter and said, "Thank you for everything. I am sorry for all the hardships you had to go through." She sighed and gave me a half-serious look. "Mom, stop it," she said. "That is ancient history. I am who I am today because of you. No more overtime work, okay? Take better care of yourself." Her words hit me straight in the heart. I felt tears well up in my eyes. She had grown into such an incredible person. Later, I received a ridiculous message from my ex-husband. "I have paid everything. Let us start over." I did not even bother responding. Instead, I used the opportunity to block his number for good. Looking at my ex-husband, I realized something. Some people never change, no matter how many years pass. But my daughter? She kept growing into someone stronger, wiser, and more amazing every single day. Watching her now, I felt nothing but gratitude. I was so thankful to have raised this child.